Hello class and welcome to another lesson. Today's lesson is about rates and unit rates. Ratios versus rates. So for the past 2 weeks we've been talking about ratios. Right? Now we're going to be talking about rates. So here, make sure you write this down. A ratio can compare two quantities that have the same unit. So if we're talking about distance, we can talk about volume. These are all units, remember. We can talk about time, and we can talk about weight, how much something weighs or how heavy it is. So a rate, and make sure you write this down too, can compare two quantities that are measured with different units. That is the key difference between a ratio and a rate. They both compare two or more things, but a rate has different units. So a rate will compare, let's say, distance and volume, or distance and time, or distance and weight, or volume and time. So two different things, not necessarily volume and volume, or distance and distance. That would make it a ratio. Okay, make sure you have this written down. Let's try the next slide. Where are rates used? Well, if we talk about speed, we use it for speed in miles per hour. Or if we're talking about going to the market to buy food, we talk about how much it costs per pound, right? See if you can think of two more, and please write them down in your notebook. We'll be talking about it on Monday. Rates are often, so here's an example. 90 miles in 2 hours is a rate. So it can be written as 90 over 2. So we put it in the same order that it's presented. So 90 is first over 2. Okay? So per is a word that we use when we talk about rates. So please write this down. One key word that often identifies a rate is per, and it is represented with the fraction bar. So here's a couple examples. Write them down. We have miles per gallon when we talk about how much gas cars use, points per free throw, dollars per pizza slice, sticks of gum per pack, right? So these all use per. So we're talking about a rate, per. So what else can you think of? Write down a few more in your notebook. Here, if we're talking about a unit rate, we frequently talk about unit rate. A unit rate compares a quantity to only one, this is a key, unit of another quantity. So this basically means it is in simplest form. We reduce it until it is in simplest form, right? So here's an example. My chickens lay at a rate of 15 eggs in 5 days. And again, it has to be in that same order, 15 eggs in 5 days, just like ratios. So their unit rate is therefore 3 eggs per day. And so we can show this by dividing. So if we wanted to know per day, right, we would make this 1, and to get from 5 to 1, we divide by 5, and we have to do the same thing on top. So we're just simply reducing it to simplest form. Please make sure you write this down. Here's our first practice problem. At Barnes & Noble, 3 paperback books cost $18. What is the unit rate for the books? Well, if 3 paperback books cost $18, so $18 per 3 books. Okay, so if we want to know what is the unit rate for the books, we want to know what it costs per book. And so if we look at 18 and 3, we can divide them both by 3. Right? And so our top number is now 6. 18 divided by 3 is 6, and 3 divided by 3 is 1. So the unit rate for the books is $6 per book. Okay, let's try another one. Here's the second problem. A spaceship is flying at 80 miles for every 2 hours. So if that is true, 80 miles for every 2 hours, we can write that down. 80 miles, and let's label for every 2 hours, right? Okay, so then the unit rate, we need to just reduce. So if we reduce, we can divide them both by 2. 80 divided by 2 is 40. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And let's label. So their unit rate is therefore 40 miles per hour. So we can say 40 miles per hour. Okay. Second question, how many miles will it travel in 4 hours? Well, if it travels 40 miles in 1 hour, right? 40 miles in 1 hour, then how many miles will it travel in 4 hours? So equivalent was right, or equivalent rates. This is how we figure out rates. So how do we get from 1 to 4? Well, we have to multiply by 4. 1 times 4 is 4. So we do the same thing on top. 40 times 4, that's like saying 4 times 4, but we have this extra 0. So that's 160 miles. So it can travel 160 miles in 4 hours. All right, and if you need to, please make sure you are going to re-watch this video. Try the next slide. Your homework. So here's your homework problems. A 2-liter bottle of soda costs $1.98. How much does it cost per liter? Number 2, a machine can fill 825 boxes in 25 minutes. What is the unit rate at which the machine fills all the boxes? And number 3, on a bicycle you can travel 30 miles in 60 hours. How many miles can you travel per hour? Okay, and I will see you tomorrow. Have a good weekend.